Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special Fireside Chat on estate planning. My name is Lisa Levinson. I'm the campaign's director for In Defense of Animals, and we are just thrilled to have you all here with us today. So I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to a few people that we're excited to have. So we've got our development director. Hold on a minute, I'm going to spotlight you. And also we've got our development director is Bob Price. Hello, Bob.
Hello, welcome.
And then we also have Mary Easonsee, who's here with us from development. Fantastic. We do have Nicole Otto-Pollock here with us, and also on our team here as a vice president of estate planning and of leadership giving. And we have a very special guest who we'll introduce momentarily. So thanks to everybody for joining us today. And thank you. I have the special privilege today to introduce our special guest. And before I do, I want to let you know that we offer a very special tool, which is called Free Will. And you can use this tool to create your own will online in as little as 20 minutes to get a legally binding will. And we hope that you will type your questions in the chat. Then we'll be addressing them later during our Q&A at the end of the presentation. And thankfully, we have Mary and Bob are going to be communicating with you in the chat. So thank you so much to them for their help. So now it's my delight to introduce Peggy Hoyt, who is a lifelong animal advocate, pet mom, author, and attorney. She is a founding partner of the law offices of Hoyt and Bryan, a Central Florida estate planning and elder law firm. She and her law partner hold the distinction of being the only Florida law firm with two members who are dual certified by the Florida Bar in wills, trusts, and estates, and in elder law. Peggy is the founder of Animal Care Trust USA Incorporated, a national nonprofit whose mission is to keep loved pets in loving homes using pet trusts and pet trustee services. You can learn more about her charitable work at act4 with the number 4 pets.org. She is the host of a weekly podcast, All My Children Wear Fur Coats, and the author of the book of the same name. So we are just delighted to have Peggy here with us today. Hi, Peggy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. It is our pleasure to have you here. Wonderful. Well, we hear you've got a presentation to share, so I think we'll let you take it away. And then for anyone who has questions, we will have an opportunity to ask some questions after the presentation.
Thank you, everybody. I'm so glad everyone's here, and I'm looking forward to sharing this presentation with you tonight. This is my very favorite topic to talk about. I have some very specific reasons for liking this particular topic, but I hope that you will find it interesting. And if you have questions, you can, of course, put them in the chat. And my contact information is also here on the page. And if you have specific questions, you can reach out to me individually. So here's just a few of my reasons for wanting to do planning. You can see all of these lovely little faces. These are animals of mine that I love and adore. And so I want to make sure that if something happens to me, that they are well provided for. And that's really what we're going to talk about here this evening is how do we protect the pets that we love that are part of our family? So in addition to sharing this information with people who I would consider to be pet parents, who else needs to know about pet trust? And one of the exciting things about talking about pet trust is that it touches just such a broad range of people, including not only estate and elder law attorneys, but senior care managers, people who work in the field of professional guardians, people who are hospice professionals, people who serve in both the human and the pet death care arena. That would be funeral homes for both humans and for pets. And then other pet professionals, people who work in our veterinary offices, our grooming businesses, our boarding businesses, those people who work tirelessly in the perpetual care organizations or other nonprofit organizations that serve the pets that we love. So it's really a big, broad umbrella of people who need to become aware of pet trust and how they can benefit the pets that we love. So the bigger goal here, at least for me, is to help or reduce the 6.5 million dogs and cats that enter shelters each year. And this is a 2023 number. It's 6.5 million. And this is the first year, and this really is heartbreaking in so many ways, but this is the first year that dogs euthanized has actually exceeded the number of cats. Historically, cats led that very sad but unfortunate number, and now we're finding that dogs are exceeding that goal. The other thing I want to do is bring attention to the various disciplines and the roles that they play in the protection of loved pets. And then ultimately, my goal was to create a turnkey solution for pet parents and family members that might be charged with finding lifetime care solutions for loved pets. So I refer to any pet that we own as a loved pet because they are members of our family, and we want to make sure that if something happens to us, that they are taken care of. I want to share a few statistics with you. So 86.9 million households have at least one pet. That's 66% of all households. And dogs are still the preferred pet, exceeding cats by almost 20 million. So we have 65 million dogs in our households. We have 46 million cats. We have 6.7 million small animals, which would include things like rabbits, gerbils, hamsters, 6.1 million birds, which to me is an astronomical number because that just seems like a tremendous amount of birds. I've never been a bird owner myself, so to those bird owners out there, I give you kudos because I just don't have that experience. The other number that gives me it makes me smile is this $6 million reptiles, 6 million reptiles that live in our households. So I don't know that many people that own reptiles, but apparently they're out there. And then one of my favorites is the 2.2 million horses. Right now, I personally have under my care 3 horses. I lost one of my favorite horses last week, so I'm just down from 4 horses. So I have 3 horses. I have 8 dogs. I have 2 brand new puppies that I got just last week. So I lost a horse and I gained 2 puppies in the space of a week. And so I have 8 dogs right now, and I have 2 cats currently. And in a couple of weeks, I'm going to add another couple cats because I'm going to get my puppies some cats because I want them to grow up with kittens and be very cat friendly in their lifetime. So soon I will have 3 horses, 8 dogs, and 4 cats. Few more statistics to share is that the ASPCA reports that 920,000 shelter animals are euthanized each year. This is about 390,000 dogs and $430,000 cat. 530,000 cats. And the American Humane reports that 50% of dogs and 71% of cats that enter shelters are actually euthanized. So we never want a loved pet to end up in a shelter environment if there's another alternative for that pet. It's estimated that 25% of dogs in shelters are purebreds, so I don't think there's a good reason to always say, well, I can't adopt a rescue dog because I want a purebred. There's certainly lots of ways to adopt purebred animals if that is your goal. And Lisa reminded me earlier that maybe this isn't in my bio, but my dad is the former president and CEO of the Humane Society of the United States. He passed away in 2012, but one of his favorite sayings was, "Until there are none, please adopt one." And I have adopted that as my own personal mantra, because that's the way I live my life. When I get a new pet, I adopt one. Oops. My heartfelt belief is that no loved pet should ever be euthanized or find themselves homeless because their pet parent died. And I want to encourage all pet parents to have a plan for their pets. And as a result, I try to create a turnkey pet trust solution for those people that don't have any other alternatives. I want to give you a little bit of the history of estate planning and pets because it's not exactly a new concept. In England, the common law actually favored gifts to support animals. And it wasn't until recently, and I say recently kind of in a broad term, that this custom found its way to American shores. But the first case in the United States was a 1923, so more than 100 years ago now. Yeah, more than 100 years ago now. Kentucky Supreme Court case that upheld the validity of a bequest to a trust for the benefit of a pet, finding that it was based on a humane purpose and therefore was valid under a Kentucky state statute that said that gifts for humane purposes were valid gifts. So that was way back in 1923, but it took a whole long time, up to 1990, for the National Conference of Commissioners on the Uniform State Laws to add a section to our Uniform Probate Code that actually validated a trust for the care of a designated domestic or pet animal and that animal's offspring. So this is the Uniform Probate Code. Shortly thereafter, the Uniform Trust Code also adopted provisions regarding pet trusts. And today, I'm happy to report that all 50 states and the District of Columbia have adopted a pet trust statute. So every state now recognizes the ability to create a trust for the benefit of a pet who is the beneficiary of that pet trust. And I just think this is interesting information, but the last holdout was Minnesota, and they finally adopted their pet trust statute in 2016. Time flies when you're having fun. So again, we're almost 10 years down the road from that. So pet trusts have been popular for quite a long time. It kind of goes in waves how people become aware of pet trusts. The media will go through a wave of being interested in pet trusts, and then it'll be quiet for a while, and then they'll get interested again. But I think we all owe all of the pets of this planet the opportunity to have a pet trust. So if now that you know about pet trusts, you can share the good word and tell people that they can, in fact, plan for their pets so that no pet goes homeless because their pet parent didn't have a plan. So these particular state statutes, the pet trust statutes that each state has adopted, their purpose really is to provide what we call default provisions. And so these are the provisions that would apply when the pet trust itself doesn't address a specific issue. So I encourage people, as you're creating pet trusts, to make sure that you include all of the provisions that are important to you so that we're not actually having to look back to the provisions of state law, and that we can actually look to the language of the pet trust that you have drafted for the benefit of your pets. Pet trust can include any provisions you choose, so long as those provisions are not contrary to public policy or are otherwise illegal. So people like to ask me, Peggy, can I do this? Peggy, can I do that? And the answer is yes, you can really provide anything that you want for the benefit of your pets, as long as we're just keeping our eye on the fact that we're not doing anything that would be contrary to public policy or illegal. So my encouragement for everybody is that pet trusts need to be drafted to specifically address the needs of each family and their loved pets. So what you might do for your pets would be different from what I might do for my pets or what my next door neighbor might do for their pets. Everybody's going to have a different plan, but the nice part is that we can draft each of our pet trusts to those specific needs. Couldn't talk about trust without talking about the Internal Revenue Service. So I just wanted to mention that the IRS does not currently recognize a trust whose beneficiary is an animal, but notwithstanding, they've said that a pet trust should be classified as a trust for tax purposes under Section 641 of our Internal Revenue Code, whenever that trust is not otherwise invalid under applicable state law. So as a result, what happens here is that the income that's generated by a pet trust is taxable. And unfortunately, I say, not at the pet's tax rate, but at trust income tax rates. And you may learn as time goes by that pet trust tax rates or trust tax rates in general are higher than individual tax rates. It's just that we get to the highest tax bracket at a much lower rate of income. So when you do have a pet trust, you have to think about how the pet trust assets are invested so that those assets may not be generating taxable income. The other thing that I want to mention is that there is no income tax or estate tax deduction for a gift to a charitable trust when the non-charitable trust distributions are solely for the benefit of a pet. Once upon a time, and I hope this comes back at some point in the future, but once upon a time there was a bill. It was called the Morgan Bill. It was named after the drafter's dog, whose dog's name was Morgan, but it would have amended Section 664 of our Internal Revenue Code that would have allowed us to create a charitable remainder pet trust. So where the lifetime beneficiary of that trust would have been a pet, but then the remainder beneficiary would have been a charity. So we could have provided for our pets and protected our charities and gotten a deduction for that. Now we can still do that with a pet trust. We just don't get the charitable deduction that we might want to achieve. It has been estimated that somewhere between 12 and 27% of pet owners have included their pets in their estate planning. The best thing that I can say is that 100% of my clients include their pets in some way in their planning. Not everybody's going to do a pet trust, but I do have a conversation with all of my clients about their pets and how they want their pets to be provided for in the event they should become disabled or deceased. The first thing that I would suggest to you is consider creating a written action plan for your pets. And the first thing I want you to do is to identify at least 2 people, more if possible, that we'll call your pet caregivers. These are the people that are going to be responsible for your pets. And I want you to think about them in 2 categories. Who could take care of your pets on a short-term basis? And then who would you want to take care of your pets on a long-term basis? And they may be the same people, but they might not. So we might have somebody that comes in very quickly to take care of pets on a short-term basis, but then we want a different solution to provide for the pets on a long-term basis. I suggest you assemble a notebook that holds important information and documents about your pets. So I have a notebook that I have one for my horses, and then I have another one for my dogs and my cats. And it has all of their medical history, their adoption history, their likes, their dislikes, all of the things that make them unique individuals, so that if something happened to me, that somebody could go book and be able to see, how do I want my pets to be cared for, and what are the things that make them unique. I also suggest to people that you carry an emergency pet alert card or wallet. I put mine right behind my driver's license or behind my health insurance card, so that if I were to get into an accident, that somebody would find that very quickly, and it lets them know that I have pets that are home alone and that I have a short-term or temporary pet caregiver that should be contacted to make sure that somebody's aware that if something happens to me, I want them to go to my house and take care of my pets. I also recommend posting an in case of emergency decal or sticker on your doors, your windows, the dashboard of your car. You can include provisions in your in case of emergency or SOS provisions on your mobile telephone, so that people will know who to contact if something happens to you. And then always include specific pet provisions in your estate plan, both your powers of attorney and in your trusts, for the benefit of your pets. We're going to talk a lot more about that. In terms of special instructions, I want everybody to write what I call babysitter instructions. These are instructions that should be provided to anybody who might eventually end up caring for your pets. But these instructions should include the following information: the age, the breed, the gender, any identifying marks, definitely a picture of your pet. What are their eating habits? What are their food requirements? Do they have any special medical conditions that we need to be aware of? Do they have any sensitivities or allergies that would be important to know about? And then what's their medical background? What's their care? When were their last visits? What's their veterinary record? Do they have a shot record? What's the choice of veterinarian that you might have? And what's their medical history? And then, of course, all of those special traits that only you would know as the pet owner, because each one of our pets has these quirky individual personalities, and we want to make sure that if somebody was stepping into our shoes to take care of our pets, that they would know about those things. So my little Pomeranian, scared to death of thunderstorms. None of my other dogs are afraid of thunderstorms. My little Darla, she's always very shy when she first meets somebody. So important to know that about her, because she can be a little off-putting at first. My little dachshund, she's a barker extraordinaire, as anybody who might ever own a dachshund would know. So there's all just these little things that people should know about the pets that they might come to care for. In terms of creating a comprehensive estate plan for the benefit of your pets, I would encourage you to create durable powers of attorney for financial matters that include what I call pet care provisions. You may want to consider a pet care power of attorney. This is a specific instrument that is used to nominate an agent to just make pet care health decisions. So this would be something that would be ideal for pet sitters or short-term caregivers. So if they have to make healthcare related decisions for the benefit of your pets, that they would have that ability to do so. Durable powers of attorney for healthcare. This is for you to make sure that you have designated agents that can make healthcare decisions for you, that you have a living will that sets out your end of life directions for how you want to be cared for at the end of your lifetime. And then within your planning, create what I call a standalone or a testamentary pet trust. And you can do this within your living trust, or you can do it as a standalone trust instrument. And then even though you have a trust, you'll also still want to have a will. And in this case, we call it a pour over will, because its job is to pour over assets from your probate estate into your living trust so that all of your trust instructions can be carried out. If you have advanced planning needs, you might consider charitable planning, the use of a charitable remainder trust or a charitable lead trust, and life insurance solutions, things like irrevocable life insurance trusts, or using life insurance for the purpose of funding your pet trust. I have one client who purchased a $1 million life insurance policy so that he could leave it to his pet trust for the benefit of his pets, to make sure that they would never run out of money for their lifetime care. One of the things that people sometimes forget to think about, we might think about, well, what happens to our pet if we die? But then we forget to think about what happens to our pet if we become disabled. So if we become mentally disabled during our lifetime, our pets can be adversely affected if we don't have planning, or if we have improper planning. So I suggested earlier that we have a power of attorney that have pet care provisions, but if we fail to do that, then if we don't have that power of attorney, our pets could become part of a guardianship proceeding. And for me, a guardianship is the worst type of lawsuit. It's a lawsuit that your family files against you. It's one that you get to pay for, and ultimately you lose. And if you have pets as part of that guardianship, they might be the losers in that deal too, because ultimately the appointed guardian would have the responsibility for the care of your pet. And you may not know who that person is, and you may not know what their interest in pets are, or whether they would be willing to take on the responsibility of the care of your pet. And to my knowledge, there are still no provisions in any guardianship law that specifically provide for the expenditure of your money for the benefit of your pets. You would be called a ward if you were part of a guardianship. It says that we can provide for tangible personal property. And right now, under the legal definition of pets, they're still considered to be personal property. So as a result, if we wanted to spend money, your money, on behalf of your pets, we would have to have the court's permission to do so. And that can result in delays and significant expense. So my goal always for my clients is to avoid guardianship if at all possible. And the ways that we avoid guardianship are with powers of attorney and with trust. So the bottom line here is that if you don't have proper planning for your pets, the future of your pet could be uncertain if you become disabled during your lifetime. So as a result, when I create a living trust, I specifically include provisions that say, take care of me, the disabled person, but in addition to taking care of me, take care of my pets. So I specifically authorize my successor trustee to use my trust funds for the purpose of taking care of my pets. So just like a power of attorney, attorneys who are drafting these documents should include specific language that authorizes the successor trustee to spend money on behalf of your pets. We call you the trust maker in this instance. So if you were to look at my personal living trust, it says if I become mentally disabled during my lifetime, you can take care of me, you can take care of my husband, you can take care of my pets. And then I always jokingly say, and not necessarily in that order. frankly, I would prefer that my pets be taken care of first before anybody else. In addition to planning for what happens when we might become disabled during our lifetime, we have to plan for what happens in the event of our death or at the time of our death. We know for sure that pets will be adversely affected if we have not properly planned for them. And I'm sorry to say this, but you cannot assume that your family, even your spouse, will take care of your pets. So you can't just put that responsibility on your spouse, your friends, your extended family, that they would take care of your pets. You have to actually create a plan that's going to do that for them. I can tell you multiple instances of people passing away and their spouses not taking care of the pets. And in fact, I heard one horrible story where an entire kennel of dogs was euthanized because the surviving spouse was not interested in caring for those pets. I know of other horrible stories where pets have been let out the back door, of course, stories where they've been dropped off at shelters. There's just too many bad things that can happen to good pets when we don't have a plan. But there are lots of planning options. So I want people to think about what those options are and think about what the risk to their pets are ultimately. So I think the greatest risk, obviously, is doing nothing. And about 50% of Americans have done nothing. They have no estate plan whatsoever, or they have a plan that is so outdated that it doesn't address the current activities or the current situation in that person's life. So I think the greatest risk is doing nothing. The second greatest risk is making an outright distribution of your pet to a pet caregiver. And the example that I give here is I give my pet Fluffy to Anne, my sister. So, okay, that's great. I've given my pet to my sister Anne, but now I just have to assume that Anne is going to take care of my pet, that she has the financial resources, that her lifestyle will accommodate my pet, but that doesn't give me any assurance whatsoever that my sister's actually going to take care of my pet. The second greatest risk is leaving my pet Fluffy to my sister Anne along with the sum of $10,000. Although that seems like maybe a generous gift for the care of my pet Fluffy, my sister might elect to just keep that $10,000 and drop Fluffy off at the nearest shelter. There's no guarantee that she's going to use the $10,000 for the lifetime care of my pet. So I think the greatest protection for pets comes when we create a pet trust that's designed to last for the pet's lifetime and specifically drafted to protect both our current and any future pets that we might get in the future, loved pets. And this trust should set out what are the care requirements, who are the possible caregivers along with their alternates, who are the qualified trustees along with their alternates, and then to make sure that that pet trust is funded with sufficient assets to provide for their lifetime care. I encourage my clients to overfund their pet trusts. I would rather leave too much money for the benefit of my pets than not leave enough money. Because once the purpose of the trust is completed, so the last one of my pets has passed away, I've named some charitable organizations that will take the remainder interest. So I really don't care if I overfund it. I just want to make sure that there's more than enough money to take care of my loved pet. So pet trusts come in a couple of different varieties. So most pet trusts are testamentary pet trusts. These are trusts that arise as a result of somebody's death, and they can come into existence in two ways, either through a trust in a will or through a trust in a trust. So if it's a trust in a will, it isn't funded until after probate is complete. And so as a result of that, I don't recommend a trust in a will for the benefit of pets, because wills require probate. They can result in delays, they can result in unexpected costs, and they can result in unexpected outcomes. And as a result, the pets can be in limbo for an extended period of time until that probate issue is resolved. And then pet trust assets must be part of that probate estate, and as a result can also be diminished by claims against the estate, creditors of the estate, or taxes that may be due by the estate. So these are just things to think about as you're thinking about creating a pet trust. My bottom line recommendation is I'm not a fan of pet trusts in a will. I prefer a pet trust in a trust. So this is what I call a standby pet trust. So this would be part of your own personal living trust. And as you may already know, trusts do not require probate. They still require administration, but you don't have the delays that are associated with having to go through the probate court. This pet trust can be funded with assets that are held in your living trust, either during your lifetime or at death. And these trusts can be specifically drafted to meet your needs and the needs of your loved pets. So if you think about your living trust as being like a chest of drawers, and then your pet trust as being one of those drawers in the chest of drawers, then at the time of your death, that pet trust gets fully funded and we have the assets available to provide for the lifetime care of the pets. A third option would be a standalone option for a pet trust. And ultimately, this is probably the best option, with the standby pet trust being the second best option. But a standalone pet trust actually is created during your lifetime. It takes effect today when you create it. It's going to contain provisions regarding the care for your loved pets in the event you become mentally incapacitated. It should absolutely be funded with a variety of assets, including cash, securities, bank accounts, retirement plans, life insurance. I like a standalone pet trust because it doesn't involve other beneficiaries. It just involves the beneficiaries that are the pets. And if we had a third party, other family members or friends that wanted to contribute money to that pet trust, they could also do that too. So sometimes in unmarried party situations or husband and wife situations, if we have a standalone pet trust, each one of the parties can direct assets to that pet trust at the time of their disability or their death. Most pet trusts are going to be what we call grantor trusts. And so these are trusts that are created using the Social Security number of the trust maker. And so during your lifetime, any income that would be earned by the pet trust would be reported by you on your personal income tax return. Any standalone pet trust should be part of a broader comprehensive estate plan, which we talked about a little bit earlier, which would include trust for your benefit, for the benefit of your other beneficiaries, as well as powers of attorney that provide for you and for your pets. So how does a pet trust work? Well, basically, you create a pet trust for the benefit of the pet trust beneficiaries. So these are your loved pets, either those you have now or any that you might acquire in the future. And then the pet trust is going to set forth all of the specific instructions that you have for the care of each one of your loved pets. You're going to nominate both short-term and long-term pet caregivers. I like to have 3 of each as a minimum. And if you want to name perpetual care organizations or a nonprofit organization as a last choice, I think that's always a good idea to consider. And then the property of the pet trust is going to be managed by a trustee, somebody who's responsible for managing, investing, and distributing the pet trust property pursuant to the instructions that you've left for the benefit of your pets. So trusts can be people, not always recommended, or they can be corporate trustees. I tend to favor corporate trustees in this particular instance. And that's one of the reasons why I created Animal Care Trust USA, because they are the only US trustee that's dedicated solely to pet trusts. There are hundreds of trust companies across the United States. My experience has been to date that most of them are more than happy to manage your money, but they do not want the responsibility for your pets. You can also consider including as part of your pet trust what I call a pet care panel or an animal care panel. And this is a panel of people that you know and trust that would provide additional oversight for the benefit of your pets. So for me, I have a pet care panel for my dogs and cats, and then I have a separate pet care panel for my horses. But these are people that are friends of mine that know my animals and that would be able to help my pet caregiver make difficult decisions related to my pets, such as catastrophic care decisions or ultimately euthanasia decisions. All pet trusts should include provisions for the lifetime care and maintenance of your pets. And I really kind of lump these into three categories. So some of my clients want what I call forever home. And that's where the pets are going to remain in their own home. So if something happens to you, the pets don't leave your home. Instead, a pet caregiver comes and moves into your home to take care of your pets. And that's what I personally have for my pet trust, is that if something happens to me and something happens to my husband, my pets don't go anywhere. They stay right here, and their pet caregiver moves in and lives on my property and takes care of my pets so that their life, other than me being absent, doesn't really change. The second option is what I call forever family. And these where your pets would be rehomed with another loving family. Sometimes that isn't a good possibility for pets, depending on what type of pet we have, but sometimes the best solution for our pets is what we call a forever sanctuary. And this is where pets would live in a structured pet community. One of the examples I can think of to give you is that I had a gentleman who passed away. He had some elderly cats, and we were able to place his cats in a senior cat sanctuary. So they were able to go where only senior cats lived, and they were able to live out their lifetimes there. Your pet trust should, of course, include instructions for end-of-life care for your pets. So how do you want your pet cared for at the end of its lifetime? Do you want it to be euthanized? If there's a catastrophic situation, how do you want that to proceed? What does that look like? And then do you want your pets to be buried or cremated? And then what do you want to have happen with their remains at the end of their lifetime? And then ultimately, when the last pet dies, the remainder beneficiary, so the charity or persons who will receive the remaining trust assets then gets the assets. I much prefer to name charitable organizations as remainder beneficiaries, not people, because this will avoid family conflicts. I have several pet trusts right now where I have charitable beneficiaries as the ultimate beneficiaries, and of course, their number one concern is making sure that the pets are cared for their lifetimes. How do we calculate the cost of care? So when you're trying to determine how much money to leave for the benefit of your pets, there's a lot of things that you have to think about, but many factors can go into this, not the least of which is what type of pet do you have? What's the age of your pet? What are the food and the medicines that they take now? What's your budget for toys and treats? What's your veterinary care costs look like? What do you spend on an annual basis? And then what could you estimate for chronic or catastrophic care. And then if your pet caregiver had to go on vacation, what about boarding costs or grooming costs, depending on the type of pet? We talked a little bit a moment ago about end-of-life care, but factoring in the euthanasia of your pet, any cremation or burial or the final disposition of your pet. Caregiver compensation. Are you going to pay the people that are taking care of your pets? And what does that look like? And then if your pet is going to remain at home with the forever home option that I mentioned, there's going to be the additional costs of your mortgage payment, if any, taxes on the property, insurance, utilities, maintenance of the properties, and then trustees' fees if you have a professional trustee serving in the role of trustee. And so I've provided for you an online calculator that's at actforpets.org. If you want something that can help you, you can also just kind of factor what you spend on a monthly basis. You can multiply that out to turn it into an annual figure. And then I suggest that you choose an unnaturally long lifespan for your pet and multiply that out by the potential lifespan of your pet. And if you overfund your pet trust, again, I think that's okay because ultimately, hopefully you're leaving it to a charitable organization, but the costs that we sometimes don't factor in are going to be those catastrophic or chronic care costs that might come up. In terms of funding your pet trust, making sure that we have sufficient assets to provide for the love and care of our pets, we can look to all of our assets, our checking, our savings, our CDs, our money markets, mutual funds, investment accounts, any stocks and bonds that we might own. Our real property can be used to fund our pet trust, our personal property. We can buy life insurance policies or annuities specifically for funding our pet trust, and then our retirement plans, our IRAs, our 401ks, 403bs, or Roth IRAs. I'm looking at the picture on this page, and that's my little baby Layden, who passed away a number of years ago, but it always makes me happy to see her in her little skirt there. She was a true love. Animal Care Trust USA is a national nonprofit organization that was created as a turnkey solution for both pet parents and their trusted advisors. Our mission is to keep loved pets in loving homes. And so we primarily do this by educating pet parents about what their planning options are. We do provide lifetime care solutions for pets, which I call the Forever Loved programs. And we help create and manage pet trusts for our pet parents. As I mentioned, the Forever Love programs include Forever Home, Forever Family, and Forever Sanctuary. For those people that are very, very cost conscious, we have the nation's first pooled pet trust. We call this the Act for Pets Community Pet Trust, and it's not a pet trust that you would draft as a custom pet trust. It's one that you would join using a joinder agreement. And we, as I mentioned earlier, we're the nation's first and only trustee that only takes on pet trusts. So we don't represent people, we only represent pets and pet trusts. For some resources that you can consult, the third edition of my book, All My Children Wear Fur Coats, How to Leave a Legacy for Your Pet, is available either through my law office or on Amazon.com. I do host a weekly podcast, as Lisa mentioned earlier. It is on Buzzsprout or wherever you get your favorite podcast. And each week we talk to pet professionals from various sectors. They could be medical professionals, they could be inventors or innovators, they could be rescue organizations. I've been doing this about 10 years now, I guess. And I've met a tremendous number of wonderful people through that process. And I've learned a ton about different products and ways that we can protect our pets. And then, of course, Animal Care Trust USA, we have lots of resources on our site at actforpets.org. And if I can ever do anything to help anybody or shoot you in a direction, I will do my best to do that. And my contact information is right here, and you can see me with my little dog Bingo in that picture. So I want to now open this up to the chat and see if we have questions.
Hi, Peggy. So this is Bob. We did get some questions, and I will pass them to you. Marilyn asks, in a revocable trust with perhaps 3 successor trustees, can that trust last forever as long as the successor trustees are willing and able to manage it? If the pets are long-lived, can a successor trustee also appoint another successor trustee to carry on? Thus, would there be less need to designate a guardian or a new trust if the directions were included in the revocable trust?
Wow, that's a good long
mouthful.
question. Thank you. So number one, how long your pet trust can last is going to depend on your state statute. And most state statutes are going to say that a pet trust will last for the lifetime of the pet beneficiaries. Long enough to take care of all of your pets. You can nominate or create in your pet trust the ability for successor trustees to nominate their successors so that you never run out of pet trustees. And you can also include in your pet trust what we call a trust protector, so that if you ever did run out of trustees, a trust protector could be appointed for the purpose of appointing additional trustees. I don't know if that answered all of the questions, Bob.
That was a mouthful.
I was trying to find the question in the chat so that maybe I could find it a little bit more easily.
We can pass it on to you too afterwards.
Okay. Yeah, and
and
I'm happy to answer that more directly if to that individual if they want to send me a personal email.
Yeah, that sounded pretty complex. And then Nora would like to know who, and this seems pretty a practical question, who and how is going to give life tracking that the person you are giving your home to, et cetera, to take care of your pets won't just drop them off to an animal shelter to have them euthanized. Once you're dead, you don't know that what they are going to do to your pet. So how do you know that your trust is enforced? Like, how do you know after you're gone that these things are happening?
So that's why I like to separate the responsibilities of pet caregiver and trustee. And it's also why I like to use the animal care panel that I mentioned so that you have this checks and balance system built into your planning. So if your pet caregiver and the trustee is the same person, there's no way you would ever know. So if you separate those roles and then if you build in that third level of oversight, I think that's a really good way to do that. Plus, you'll be, if you have an independent trustee, they also have an obligation to keep qualified beneficiaries or the remainder beneficiaries notified about what's happening in the trust. So I would hope that wouldn't happen, but I have to say I saw recently in a St. Petersburg or Tampa Bay Times article that a lady did leave her house for the benefit of her cats, and the charitable organization that was supposed to be caring for them as trustee ultimately decided not to do that. And I felt very badly for that lady because her cats didn't get to stay in her home. So I think you have to just choose your caregivers and your trustees very, very carefully.
Very good. Do we have time for one more?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, this was very practical too. Lisa would like to know, does having a pet trust mandate that you have a living trust?
Lisa, it does not, but my experience has been that when you try to include a pet trust in a last will and testament, that you're going to have the problems that I mentioned earlier, which are the delays of probate, the potential claims of creditors, taxes, and other things that could interfere with the operation of the pet trust or the funding of the pet trust. So my preference is for people to use living trusts or standalone living trusts as a way to provide for their pets.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah. Actually, we have one more question that might be a good one. And that one's related to the slides that you just shared with us, which were super helpful. And we have another person also named Lisa who is wondering if the slides will be part of the recording. We will have this recording available on our YouTube channel. And so that will be up and you can see the slides. But also, is that information that was in the slides also in your book, Peggy?
A lot of this information is in my book, plus more, because I have some sample language, some sample documents and things like that. And Lisa, I'm happy for you to share the PowerPoint presentation with folks if they reach out to you personally for that purpose.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Me and also my kitty companion here are very grateful to you for what you've shared with us today. It was so informative. I think that it's important to all of us what happens to us as we get a little closer to that time and also still have some of our companion animals. And this sweet kitty here is actually the companion animal of my mom, who did her planning was to bring her to me. So, and also, so I think this is really key, is to think about legally, how can we do some legally binding things that can ensure that everyone of our dearly beloved animals is properly taken care of or for in the way that we would like to do that.
Absolutely.
Many people are thanking you in the chat box here for this wonderful presentation, that it was so helpful. And we hope that many people also contact you to reach out for questions, for support, and perhaps for your services.
Thanks to everybody for joining us tonight, and happy planning.
Yes, thanks to everyone. We so appreciate you. So we want to extend that appreciation from all of us at In Defense of Animals to all of you, everyone watching here and also online. And very special thanks to Peggy. This was a really important presentation for all of us. And I'm just so happy to have met you.
Thank you, Lisa. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So thanks, everyone. We hope you have a wonderful evening, and maybe we'll see you again at our next Fireside Chat. And meanwhile, stay tuned for the replay, or you can check our YouTube channel. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Peggy. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy tails, everybody.
Happy days.